A report of 7 white giants saved Porto Germeno area of the area of around Corinth of Greece. Now, what about this report of white giants? Recently, I posted a Battle of Marathon video concerning the white giant that was using a laser sword, a light laser sword, like a lightsaber, and his name was, he was seen by the oblate Episilos, and the Greek soldier got blinded by looking at the saber. Ahetlaus was his name. They named him, actually. They went after they won the battle, which they didn't expect to win against the Persians. They went to the Oracle of Delphi to ask the oracle who that white giant who disappeared after the battle was. And she said, his name is Ahetlaus, and you have to revere him and honor him as a hero. So we do have angels helping us in our salvation plans and in human history. But what about these 7 white giants in the area of Porto Germano that saved them? This is a few years ago, about 8 years ago. They said some people went for a few days to Porto Germano, which is a beach. It's a beach area. It's a nice beach, just a short time from Athens, and an amazing combination of mountain and sea. It was a perfect paradise for someone like me, the writer said, who had been on vacation for 4 consecutive years. After several dives, I went with my friends to the veranda of the cafe where you had a plate all over Porto Germano. In other words, you could see the area, the whole bay of that area. The eye was so close in depths to the horizon under the blue and white canopy of the sky. The breeze was more than cool enough. All I needed at the time, I closed my eyes to enjoy it, he says. And later we left and went down to the room we had booked to stay. And he says, hello, Kostas Papadopoulos, mechanical engineer. I introduced myself, and the tenant had a lady known to the company, the daughter of an old man who claimed to be more than 100 years old. But even if he was not as old as he said, he was definitely close to that. He was well built and seemed to have 400. He sat at the table. In other words, tetrakosa means that he was very mentally capable. He sat at the table with us, and we all enjoyed a great lunch. He was a strange man with his own philosophy of life, existence, respect, and love for nature, even for health issues. For example, although he was a diabetic, he never had been to a doctor, but every morning on an empty stomach he drank 2 tablespoons of lemon for 3 consecutive days. Among other things, he told me that there was the ancient city of Aegisthenes with a fortress from those years. In the past, he told us, giant skeletons had been discovered there. In other words, skeletons of ancient giants. 7 white giants over 4 by 4.5 meters each. That's over 12 to 15 feet. Under height, under 7 peaks of Kithaeron, underground burrows had been dug that reached into the sea. They used them as tunnels. They sucked the seawater, spat out on approaching enemy ships, and in this way sank them. Also, when the forest caught fire, they spat water on it to extinguish it, he said. Great imagination you have, an old man, someone from the company told him. And you, friend, see only the reality that you are allowed to see, the old man replied with incredible confidence in his voice. We all looked at each other, on the one hand for the elder's astonishing reaction, and the other because, at least in some issues, his response was not so far from the truth. The next day I went to the same cafe with that wonderful terrace and sat in the corner overlooking the sea and the mountain. I noticed then, high on the peaks of Kithaeron, 7 white wind turbines rise and stand out like huge giants. The wings have been shown solely to give a sense of proportion. The wings have been shown solely to give a sense of proportion, and the wings have been giving the sense of proportion as they stood haughtily at their bases, high at the top. they seemed to observe and watch the whole area, unbeknownst to the holidaymakers, as the propellers turned slowly. Yeah, there are a lot of wind turbines in the Peloponnese and all over Greece on the mountain tops. Suddenly, a strong smell of burning invaded my nostrils. I turned and saw smoke on the slope. The forest was burning, but people were not worried. Someone explained to me that there was a provision and special pipes that had been placed underground with their mouths submerged in the sea. Reached as far as the wind turbines and sucked the water that would pass through them, which would launch it like rain on Porto Germeno, and indeed it did. The experts who exploited the wind turbines used the stored energy to act as fans that would scatter the seawater as a kind of artificial rain. Within a few minutes, the fire was extinguished as the seawater was really falling like rain all over the slope, but it was reaching the bathers as well, the swimmers on the beach. Someone accidentally shook me and I woke up. None of this really happened. I dreamed it all. But already at that moment I had devised in my mind a unique invention of firefighting. The holidays went for a walk. The people taking their holidays went for a walk. As the next few days I sat on my desk and planned a construction for a column perpendicular to the ground and a turbine at the top with propellers. I calculated the friction of the fins, their wear, the fatigue of the metal, the ripple of torque, as well as everything that contributes to the good reliability of the construction. A gearbox would provide the blades not only turning with the wind, but turning their slow rotation into a faster one and turning them 360 degrees so that they could turn in any direction, especially if a possible fire did occur. Of course, I had not designed a second turbine, an internal one, which would suck the seawater through specially shaped pipes that started from the tower and would end underground in the sea. All this could be a work or study for technical universities in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, where I studied, he said. I granted the patent and presented it to the Greek agencies, but also to agencies in other countries with an archipelago or large coastline that suffered from fires, but at the same time were in need of the exploitation of wind energy. The latter showed great interest and put their hand deep in their pocket. I have always been convinced that imagination can improve but also evolve the reality we live in, of course with the required respect and love that everything around us needs. And all this started from a dream that I saw in my dream, and I trusted it in the coolness of the terrace of a cafe in Porto Germeno. History is a product of fantasy and fiction. The faces, names, situations, imaginary, and resemblance is coincidence and does not correspond to reality. This I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.